You're listening to Data Center Therapy. Please take a number, and an engineer will be right with you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Data Center Therapy, a podcast from IVOXY Consulting that talks all things IT with a healthy dose of empathy. I'm your host, Matt, Manage This, Yeti. And alongside me is my co-host, Matt Cozzolino.
Did you do your Basecamp update?
We'll get to that later. But for each episode, we do dive into the wide range of technologies, including Basecamp, that make up this beautiful sandbox called IT that we all play in. We share our hopes and dreams, opinions both positive and critical alike, all with a touch of empathy, because at the end of the day, we all need a seat on that couch. So, Matt, thank you for joining in with the joke early on today. We also have two very special guests today. That would be Jenn Bahneman and Dan Stoecker. Jen, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks, Matt.
Good, and you sound great on the mic. That is vastly important, and I appreciate your efforts to get there. And Dan, how are you?
Excellent.
All right, so if anybody out there listening is not familiar, Dan and Jen had our PMO, Project Management Organization. Is that right? Did I use the acronym right? Because letters get thrown at me like an alphabet.
Office.
Right.
Office.
Right. Office without an office, especially lately, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they run our project management at IVOXY. So as a company serving a wide range of businesses, both small all the way to enterprise, we have a wide range of needs for our customers. We have one-day projects. We have half-day projects. We have 30 and 60 and 90-day projects. And the amount of touch and coordination and the straws that need to stir the drink and the glue and all of that vastly variable based on those projects.
Unsung heroes here, right? Yeah.
I would say so. And the thing is about IVOXY, I feel, and you can chime in on this too, Kaz, I feel really fortunate that we have a very familial feel.
Mm-hmm.
That includes fights at the Thanksgiving table, no question. But it's all very comfortable, and we can be ourselves with each other. There's not a whole lot of varnish to what we do. The message is direct, where we understand and support each other. And the point I'm making is Dan and Jen are those people, are good people, and it's been awesome to have that kind of support within the organization, at least from my point of view. I don't know about you, Kaz. You've said all kinds of nasty things to me.
That's all it is. It's just vitriol all day long. No, actually, it's really great. There's a lot of times I feel like I end up getting bogged down in all of the technical stuff, and these guys help me kind of keep a view of the real world and what else has to happen day to day kind of stuff.
Well, not just you, right? That's
right,
the thing
and that's
too.
the
Sometimes,
thing,
yeah. And with our customers, it's obviously always a partnership, project based, and yet we're not always dealing with one person, and certainly probably not one only technical person when we're on site with customers. There's stakeholders, and oftentimes a customer might have their own project management, and that can be a challenge to navigate, because from a tech standpoint, we're like, where do I go? What do you need? What are the tasks?
Which widget? Yeah.
So I'll start with you, Jen. Jen, I think you started IVOXY months after me, right? So I think I've been at IVOXY. Well, Kaz, did you clip 10 years yet?
I think just this month is, actually.
Wow. Congrats.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 10 for Matt. I'm at 7.5, and I think, Jen, you're probably over the 7 mark now.
I'm hitting 7 in November.
There you go. There you go. So Jen, I'll start with you then. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your career, whatever you think, the potpourri of Jenn Bahneman.
Oh boy. Yeah. So I've been called a Jill of all trades because I've bounced around from, supervisor at a fabric store in my youth all the way to, building websites and doing web development. I've run the gamut. But the one thing that's always held true through any job I've done is that I want to organize and checklist everything. So project management is just built into my DNA. I was doing it as a child. I would gather all of the kids in the neighborhood and I'd say, we're going to put on a play today. 6 o'clock, everybody needs to be ready. Here's your parts, go learn them. That was fun to me.
Did they put their time into base camp afterwards?
They better have.
No pixie sticks for you.
That's right. There's going to be a problem here.
Well, so you didn't begin at IVOXY though as PMO. You grew into that role and created that, carved out that niche at IVOXY, right?
Yeah, I started just coming in to assist with scheduling, to take that off of the plate of another person who was at that time managing the entire team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wasn't it like the account managers would schedule us individually for each project, and it was a mad dash to grab whoever's free time on the calendar, that kind of a thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
Oh, to be
chaos.
a super young company.
The growing pains we've gone through, yeah.
Yeah. But what's been really good is, as we've grown, we've added. I feel like we have not passed that inflection point where it seems like all companies, once they reach a certain size, they tip over into this mess of inefficiency and incompetency. It almost feels it's a necessity, a rite of passage once you get a certain. I feel like we've continued to grow, yet put in little more than common sense policies and procedures and process that actually makes sense. And part of that has to do with hiring Dan Stoecker, who is professionally historically a PMO, right? And Dan, I'm not gonna pretend to even paint that picture. I'm gonna let you take away. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Dan.
Sure. Well, yeah, I've been a project manager for about 8 years now. It's something that a lot of kids might not necessarily sit in school one day thinking, I'm going to be a project manager when I grow up. And I certainly was not one of those either. It's something that I kind of grew into organically. I started initially as more of a technical role. I had previously to IVOXY had worked in the renewable energy field as well as the medical device field. I had been essentially a field technician, so going on site, installing equipment, commissioning Met towers for the wind energy industry. And from there, just kind of noticed that I had an almost innate skill to sort of, we call it juggling chainsaws or herding cats, just the ability to kind of mentally track multiple projects, multiple timelines, multiple logistics. So the combination of those skills plus the desire to have a little bit more of an office job and a job that was less involved in, hanging off of wind turbines 300 feet up in the air off of a rope, trying to troubleshoot a little sensor. It's fun. The novelty wears off after a while, but
you and Shane could get together and do some crazy stuff then, huh?
Oh yeah. We've got one of our other consultants is pretty hardcore as far as that stuff goes as well.
Shane's 20,000 leagues under the sea, and Dan's there climbing wind
towers.
Okay, I'll stay right here with my feet planted firmly on solid earth.
Well, Dan will do the 20,000 under too.
That's true.
You dive also?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I dive as well.
Okay then.
Yeah.
The highs and lows with this guy.
I guess so. Well, it's funny you say that, Dan. I think sometimes dealing with a project or anything, I just want someone to step up, grab it by the horns, make sure to follow through with next steps. It feels like some meetings get to the point where everybody is so impressed with their own sound of the voice that what's the action item or items out of this? And somebody's got to say this and then follow up. Yeah, we'll have lunch. Yeah. Imagine if every meeting ended with that sentiment, right? Without actually saying, no, we're going to schedule that lunch that we talked about, or we're going to follow up, or this is what I heard. The ability to do that is GTD at that point, right? It's getting things done. What could be more important than that?
And that's essentially what it is. There's really no magic in it. A lot of it is just that having that diligence, having the ability to communicate, and also the ability to really hold people accountable. So if we discuss deadlines in the meeting and we all agree on dates, then following up and making sure that those dates are still honored.
We're professional nudges.
Yep.
There you go.
So, Kaj, you've been on some larger projects recently on the implementation end of things for sure. How much stress do these guys relieve for you?
For me, it's quite a bit. Back in the day, I remember doing the same kind of thing that Dan alluded to, where it's like, here's this big project, and I'm the one that's running it, so I have to make sure that all of these things are ongoing and kept up, and I've got to bug these people to get whatever done. So now I've got the ability to offload, I guess, some of that and say, hey Jen, hey Dan, X needs to get done, I'm going to keep working on Y. Can you make sure so and so gets that done, or can you follow up on this or that kind of a thing? And it relieves some stuff from my plate, actually.
So, Jen and Dan, have you seen the case where, because we don't only offer PMO for our internal process and manage projects of any size, but we also offer that service to our customers if they don't have a project management team, or they have a whole host of people who are stakeholders in a project, but really no one to wrangle those cats. We do that also, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen any unique challenges about that, or how have you seen that play out in once the rubber hits the road?
Sure. I mean, I think it sometimes can be a challenge, obviously, when you're trying to manage stakeholders who are not part of your organization. It's a lot harder to get results out of folks who really have no incentive to listen to you or to pick up the phone when you call. But I think that one strategy that really is helpful is kind of promoting that collaborative approach. Not only is IVOXY here to help provide whatever solution that you're looking for, but also how can we help wrangle and organize your own resources to help everyone get on the same page, to help clear any blocking issues that even might be occurring internally on the customer side. There might be something that I or one of the IVOXY consultants can actually do to help clear that and to help move the project forward, even if it's not specifically, something that's in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. Well, I know we've used Slack internally now for a few years, and that's been one of the, I think, it's weird. It's not
kind of surprising.
Yeah, it kind of has brought the water cooler back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Especially being already remote, even before everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so from what I've seen, some of the larger projects, we've actually set up a Slack channel dedicated to that project, and even seen a channel where the customers can be involved in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So do we do that? How do we set that up? I mean, is that something that it's just kind of a party line, or or is it for like real, rapidly flowing developments in a project?
Mm-hmm. Slack has been great. It's something if they have Slack as well, we can always connect with them and invite them to project-specific channels. I mean, I think one of the reasons why it works particularly well with IVOXY and with a lot of our customers even comes down to a generational thing where a lot of us, millennials or millennial-adjacent folks, and in high school, sorry, Yeti, in high school, we got home from class and we all hopped onto AOL Instant Messenger, and chatted with each other, chatted with our friends.
ICQ.
Yep.
That I do remember.
And same thing in college, with campus networks, chat rooms, everything else. So I think it really helps. It's an easy transition to go from, communicating with folks both on one-on-one and on group chat bases. It's a really easy transition to have that in Slack and to have that functionality of being able to just ping someone and ask a question or have a written record of decisions we've made on a project.
So you mentioned college, Dan. I don't know if the audience knows, Dan and I share the same alma mater, actually. So we both attended Siena College, and outside of the Capital District in New York. What year did you graduate?
2008.
Oh wait, he's 08. I'm 03. Aforementioned comment about millennials. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was the internet much better there when you attended?
It was a little better. I'm sure it was a little faster.
My freshman year was the fall of '99, and Napster had just hit the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a nice juicy T1. And it was absolutely, completely useless because everybody was downloading MP3s to the max, and it was just over. Even AOL Instant Messenger, like you mentioned, would not connect because there was simply there's so much packet loss
on that.
It was, our ITS was not a well-regarded organization at that school, but yes, I do remember roommates and then hallmates down the hall in the dorms where they would have their doors open and their speakers on 11 and hearing the freaking AOL every single message. It was just this chorus. It was like Christmas lights in the air kind of thing.
Ooh. So we're still with that. Now we just have the Slack message, the bottle cap sound, or whatever you want it to be.
Oh, that's what okay. I never thought of it that way.
Yep.
That one,
oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, well, how do you guys Jen, well, I'll say this, Jen, I know that again because you didn't come on board originally as a project manager, at least officially.
Mhm.
You went to take some certifications and were surprised in how process based and detail oriented and all of these things that to be considered a certified project manager. What was that like?
Yeah, so I'm still studying. I took a class, was it last year? Might have even been the year before now, down in Arizona, a 5-day class, and it barely scratched the surface. So
And
it's a lot of studying.
is there a test then, like
There's,
a certification test? Is it Washington specific? And okay,
I don't think it's Washington specific, but there is a certification test.
okay.
Man, yeah. We all have to keep up with our varying certifications for vendor partnerships, and I don't really consider too much of. I don't know about you, Jen. So from a tech side, I don't really learn stuff from certifications. I'll say that.
No.
Right.
I learn stuff from doing.
Yeah.
I came out of college and I was working at a vocational school in New York, and I've been there for like a year, and then we brought on an intern kid who had certs out the wazoo, CCNA, all this stuff, right? Could not configure a switch for the life of him. I had no certs, but I could do it. So it's like take your pick, right? But I'm wondering, is it like that for you, where this is just a burden that you have to overcome, or does it actually going through the testing process? Do you learn a lot there too?
I think you do learn a lot. I, excuse me, I enjoy organizing things, even if it's thoughts or, raw data. I enjoy that. And this book is all about different techniques to do that. So when I'm studying, I'm learning different ways to organize data that might be more useful than what I have just intuited in the past.
There's some concepts that you maybe haven't looked at, haven't used, and
Right.
you could see that, oh, you know what, this other situation might be more applicable to that type of
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just
Yeah, I
useful.
could see that.
Yeah.
What do you guys prefer, carrot or stick?
Ooh.
I mean, like Dan was saying, I mean, you have somebody who's really not accountable to you, but you're being hired to be accountable to.
Mm-hmm.
What's the recourse if things aren't going right? How long do you wait before you shake the tree? I'm a big tree shaker. I'm a big fan of shaking trees.
Not you.
Me, no.
Carrot or stick depends on who I'm chasing.
Yeah. You wouldn't be in IT if your first answer wasn't "it depends."
Right?
Or a consultant.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would assume from your standpoint, step number one has to be, before any of this, who is my direct contact if things aren't happening, I would say. So even though that person at that company might not be the manager, they're bringing us on to handle it all. But hey, if you're not getting what you need to talk to X.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that has to be defined pretty early on.
Yes. One of the first things.
There's got to be some buy-in from the team and from the top level, saying, hey, you know what, we do need this. We are going to work with this and work with that.
Well, I think it's a tough balance in IT also because, like, we're fortunate because Dan and Jen both have technical skill and not necessarily overlapping. Jen's got dev work. So she understands a certain part. Dan was in field tech. It's tough because in our field, we want all of our account managers to know IT. Well, that's silly. They're account managers. They're not engineers. But obviously it helps. The more everybody knows about everything, the less friction there is in handoffs. There's there's more there's more understanding about everybody's role. And when we've got a PMO team that understands IT, more than just somebody who, hey, I can do project management, but what's a server? Or I can do project management, but I have no idea what VMware is. To get past that and have that familiarity, and all that does is improve too. The more we do the lingo, the more meetings we have, the more PMO sees how meetings flow. In terms of the content, we're just really fortunate to have two people who understand IT as well, and what needs to happen when they hear keywords and they know exactly what next steps are. And then we have our internal powwows and Slack or WebEx calls, and it's really we're kind of spoiled internally, like you said, Matt. It's just not having to worry about herding cats or following up or necessarily organizing exactly how we think it's going to go, because that's a recipe for disaster if you leave that in my hands, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I do find there's benefit when I get the questions back from Dan or Jen. Hey, so you said this. What's that actually mean? It causes me to pause for a second and kind of review what I'm asking for, what I'm presenting, so that I can make it consumable for them to go follow up on, which helps me kind of stay accountable for what I'm asking for what I'm after, what I need. You know?
Well, imagine where this IVOXY lab project would be
Yeah.
without the charted out management of this project and the follow-up from the PMO team, because we're basically eating our own dog food in a lot of ways. We're using automation technologies to build the lab. Oh, yeah, well, we're proponents of automation technologies. We're leveraging project management to manage the project internally as if IVOXY was a customer of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine, Kaz, if you and I were left to our own devices for a couple of months, just what this would look like.
We
right
way
now.
over here in left field going, wait, why are we building this? That's actually a very perfect example. It's the content for the class. And
Yeah, it'd be like, hey, Mats, that's very impressive. Now let's come back to Earth
Right.
and start over.
Right.
Yeah, well, what do you guys, okay, so we mentioned a little bit, Dan, what you like to do for fun, whether that's swinging from high rises or, base jumping or... Jen, what are your hobbies?
I tend to go in the creative direction. I miss that in my job a lot. So I am learning to paint. I'm planning to learn to crochet soon. I've been sewing since I was 14, so I love to do that.
How many cats do you have?
We have one cat.
Oh, okay, I don't believe you.
Just one. He's not mine.
You're telling me a lot of keywords that are leading me,
I know. Well, I mean, I'm also married 23 years this year, so.
I can't believe you're 23, let alone married 23 years.
Well,
so
thank you.
That's a compliment.
You're just being nice so I don't slap your hands later on a project.
That's true. Base camp and then, report me, violate. They definitely stick for internal employees.
Oh, yeah,
not
that's
carrot.
fun.
Right.
Well, you do, like you say, creativity. You and Liam go crazy with house decorations too, right? You've done the Halloween, I think I remember in past years, where you've sent pictures where the whole house is done up and you really go all out.
We go all out. I love Halloween.
And let's see, your husband, I remember, it was during the eclipse. What was that, 3 or 4 years ago?
A couple years ago, yeah.
Didn't he send a weather balloon up?
We did, yeah. We drove out to Bend, and we went up onto the BLM lands, and we sent up a weather balloon with multiple cameras attached, including a 360, with a little spaceman out on a fishing rod. So he was in the picture. So we have this gorgeous picture of the shadow of the moon over the Earth with this little spaceman action figure.
What was your altitude that weather balloon got to?
I don't remember, but it was quite high.
Did you have?
You saw the curvature of the horizon, right?
Yes, there was a curvature. It went so high that the cameras actually stopped working despite being insulated in a cooler.
Wow.
Did you have to go find it, or did you have it tethered?
No, he had it GPS tracked, lost the signal because it went too high. So they thought it was gone. And then about an hour and a half passed when they expected to hear a ping. They finally got the ping. So they went out to find it.
Did that just floats and lands?
Yes.
So where did it, versus where you launched it from, where did it land?
Gosh, it was 10 or 15 miles away, I want to say.
That doesn't seem like a whole
It
lot.
might-
to me.
it might
I thought
have
you were
been
gonna say
more.
like it was in Pakistan.
Yeah, it might have been more. I don't remember the details on it, but I know it landed in a tree. And so he had to hire an arborist to go up and get one of the cameras. The other ones fell to the ground.
Oh, God looks at your plans and laughs. You know what I mean? It's like, wow.
We also went to the Bahamas when we knew a hurricane was coming. So we tend to be a little adventurous.
I remember that too.
Yeah.
I would say you've come across some bad luck from time to time, but I wouldn't say that all of it is not self-inflicted though either, stuff like that. Yeah,
Maybe.
I had to put a little bit of that on you, Jen.
Yeah, we were getting some flack about our RV trip to North California because of the fires, which we have canceled. But we had friends sending us all this information, and I looked at my husband. I'm like, do they think we're dumb? Like, why are they all sending us this? And then I went, oh, well, we did
might
go to
do
the
that,
Bahamas
yeah.
with a hurricane coming, so I guess I have to accept this.
So I can just see insurance companies like, what's that meme where the guy looks at both red buttons and he's sweating and it's like, make money, insure the Bahnemans. Like, yee. Well, Dan, so you said that we've already revealed that you're a little insane too with the
Just a little.
underwater diving and stuff. What else are you into? When I met you, you had a very interesting story about what you and your girlfriend just got back from.
Yeah, so we also really like to travel. When I had first started with IVOXY, I had just gotten back from a photo safari through Tanzania, which I could not recommend highly enough. Yeah, it was. I've always liked to travel. I've always liked photography, sort of as a hobby. Nowhere as extreme as Jen's husband, but mostly nature and wildlife photography. So Tanzania was really that was the gold standard as far as a vacation to go and just take pictures of really cool animals for 2 weeks. And,
Did you
What
get
kind of
to-
kit do you bring? Sorry, Maddie.
I was gonna say, did you get to ride on the Jeep on the hood and see the lions chase you and all of that? Was it that kind of a safari?
Pretty much. I mean, no, we didn't get chased by lions, but a lot of times you had to stop the vehicle and just kind of wait because the lions would sunbathe in the middle of the roads. And they didn't really care about the cars. They weren't moving for anyone. So we just you'd have traffic jams of a couple Land Cruisers and a couple vintage Toyota Land Cruisers and Range Rovers.
Defenders too there?
Defenders, oh yeah.
For like 2 weeks after you told me that, about your trip, I was like scouring YouTube and just, I have a weird, I don't say I have a very high fear threshold. Like, I don't love plane rides. I hate turbulence, this and that, but I'll get on a plane. I'll fly plenty, all this kind of stuff. But I will watch YouTube videos of like where that flight channel reenacts disasters and dives into what goes wrong.
Uh-huh.
And then I spent 2 weeks watching, like, looking up attacks in the jungle in the safari, like all of these the best of the freaking hippos when they
hippos.
just turn on the jets.
Oh yeah.
They are pissed. And just watching hippos like go in the boat and these people are on there laughing. I'm like, boy, that engine stops and you're not laughing anymore. You're fish food. And so I don't know if that's sick or morbid on my part, but I couldn't help but watch that and kind of like, yeah, I need more. And then I'm turned to my wife and I'm like, we gotta go on one of these things one of these days.
Oh, it was amazing. And I mean, what was funny too is, we never really felt unsafe from any animal encounters. We were close enough to take really good photos, but nothing was ever threatening us by any means. But at night, you're camping in the national park, so you're in tents. And at night, you'll hear lions, you'll hear hyenas, you hear ostrich, you'll hear all the different calls. But hearing like the lion, especially hearing the lion roar, and the sound will travel for miles. So hearing one doesn't necessarily mean it's right outside your tent. But hearing that in the middle of the night or waking up because of that, like it was crazy that, that little primitive monkey part of your brain still kind of freaks out or still sends that adrenaline, that panic response when you wake up due to the large predator roaring near you.
Oh man, that is awesome.
Crazy.
Well, what's your camera kit out? I mean, I would assume you're probably pretty good.
Yeah, decent. Nothing crazy. I have a Nikon. I just brought my kind of basic Nikon on the Safari as well as a GoPro, just for some video. And yeah, the really cool thing about it, and particularly about going to that area, a lot of the national parks in Tanzania, they get a decent amount of visitors, so they're big enough where you're not really going to ever feel crowded, but they get enough visitors where the animals themselves are kind of used to the vehicles. So you can get, a lot of times I didn't really even need a zoom lens. Like you can get within a few yards of elephants and giraffes, and they're aware that the vehicles are there, and they look back at you, and then they just kind of go back to grazing. They're just kind of used to the trucks and the safari jeeps being around. So a lot of the photo opportunities You can get the photos of the lions, sunbathing in the road, or the elephants grazing next to the road, really without any effort, but just kind of leaning out your window or popping up. Our vehicle had a removable roof, so you could kind of stand inside the vehicle and take photos from out of the sunroof. So, a lot of times they're only 50 yards away. Like, you don't even really need a fancy camera or need a ridiculous zoom. They just kind of, they're posing for you.
I think it's got to be just by the grace of their appetites that they just, because you're basically a box of Sour Patch Kids rolling by them. It's like, if I want to pick that off the shelf, I'm gonna.
They don't have a can opener. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and you stay inside the vehicle. That's the important thing. Like, if you were to leave the vehicle, then you're part of the food chain. All bets are off. But as long as you stay inside the Jeep, you're just this weirdly shaped other animal lumbering around.
Let me tell you something. As a Land Rover enthusiast and an owner of 2 Discovery 2s, I just can't believe that anything with a Land Rover badge on it is considered. I have to trust my life to the reliability of this thing. That basically the tagline is, if it ain't leaking, it's empty. Yeah. But somehow that's my fortress in the jungle.
It's the older Land Rovers in their defense. It's like the 80s, 90s vintage. But
they're tractors.
Yeah.
They're basically tractors.
Yeah, they are.
Yep, and I want one. So if anybody out there is selling one for cheap, yes, I have room in my yard. Well, that is awesome. So anything on the dock coming up? We've grown our PMO organization. The company's growing. We're busier, even with COVID. Thank goodness. We feel what our customers are feeling, but thank goodness that where we play, I don't think necessarily it's super harder hit. Like, we don't serve a lot of restaurants, unfortunately, like some of the industries that are really, hit hard by they can't be in contact. We thankfully work where remote work is not, all that detrimental to getting things done.
Yeah.
But anything on the horizon for the PMO team? Putting you on the spot here.
Yeah. We're both trying to
tools.
think.
That's good to hear. See, well, Jen, I was waiting for. Obviously, I set you up. You have to have a next step and action item.
I know,
for
right?
me here.
So what's your action item for after this meeting?
A nap.
Yes. Nap. Well, hey, nothing if not definitive, right?
Yeah.
Well, Dan and Jen, thank you very much for joining us on Data Center Therapy. It's good to introduce our listeners to yet another piece of the team, another critical piece. Again, the family here is awesome, and I have not, my previous longest stretch at any company, it was 4 years prior to IVOXY, and I've nearly doubled that now at this point, and I see no end in sight, and that's not meant facetiously. It is. I hope to go on many more years here and grow with the company and you folks as well. And it's been a pleasure to have both of you and work with both of you. And SIENA, Dan, all the way.
Go Hell Saints. Yeah, go Saints.
Matt, you have anything to add?
No, thank you guys. Actually, a whole lot for everything you guys help us do. It's really awesome.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So if you're still listening out there, and you better be, because here you go, marketing some information here. Our annual VMworld Redux, which I think gets more people than actual VMworld. Not really, but it's our most popular event year in and year out, our VMworld Redux. It's going virtual this year, of course, right? You gotta go with the times, gotta flow with the restrictions. Yep, it's our biggest event of the year, of course. Registration will be open very soon, so stay tuned right here on DCT. We'll be dropping some information in the upcoming episodes on how you can get registered for that. Subscribe to us on iTunes and Overcast and Stitcher and Spotify and all of that. Or find us at ivoxy.com or datacentertherapy.com. Any questions, you can also hit us at podcast@ivoxy.com. For Matt Coslino, I am Matt Yeti. Thanks for listening to Data Center Therapy. Have a good day, everyone.